everyone, Steve from Backcountry Gallery here, and this time around I want to pass along a few rapid-fire tripod field tips that I think you'll really enjoy. Let's start with setup. As you probably know, conventional wisdom says you should extend your tripod by starting with the larger leg sections first and then going down from the top. The idea is that if you don't end up using all the length from your smaller leg sections, you get a little bit more stability since you're only using a small part of the least stable section of the tripod. Plus, if you don't extend the bottom legs at all, you're only using the stiffer, more robust leg locks at the top sections. And you know what? All of that is 100% correct and is often a good way to go. However, there is an important exception, and that's when you need rapid height changes. One of the main reasons I purchased these nice big beefy tripods is so I can use the lower leg sections without fear of too much stabilization loss. When I anticipate rapid height changes for a shoot, which is, pretty common with wildlife, I buck conventional wisdom and I start by extending the lower sections first, and then I extend the middle section and finally the largest. The reason is simple. If I rapidly want to change height, it's far easier and faster to do it when the leg sections that I can still adjust are right here at my hand. This allows me to very rapidly adjust height both up and down without dropping down to the lower leg locks to make it happen. Not only is it faster, it also requires far less movement, helping to keep the animal calm. As a side note, I want to emphasize that on the rare occasion I don't anticipate height changes, I do extend the tripod in the traditional top-down way. The next tip is for when you have to stick your tripod into a bit of muck or sand. The key here is to keep the leg locks out of that stuff. Nothing messes up a leg lock faster than a bit of sand or mud in the threads or the locking mechanism. Now, the easiest way to help prevent trouble is to extend the lower leg sections a bit if they aren't already. If you've already extended the bottom leg sections, you know what, you're probably all set. However, if you're like me and you find yourself getting really low and using the tripod without extension, then you have to be really careful not to let the locks get into that muck. Instead, extend those lower leg sections a bit before pushing them down into the mud or sand. You want to extend them far enough so that when the tripod is planted, the leg locks are at least a hand's width above the sand or the muck. The more stirred up the water though, the higher you may want to go with your extension. As an additional tip, you can also put plastic covers over the lower legs and the locks to help keep silt out in particularly bad areas. And B&H sells them for about $10, so worth taking a look. Regardless, anytime you expose your tripod to sand, silt, mud, or salt water, make sure you thoroughly rinse everything. If you feel any grit at all in the threads or the locking mechanism, it's often best to take them completely apart, clean, and re-lube as needed. Our next tip is for those with taller tripods. If you've read any of my books, you know I'm always recommending that you splurge on a taller tripod. Most people think it's so that you can extend a leg or two farther than usual when you're setting up on rough, sloping terrain, and while that is 100% true, it's not the only reason to spring for a taller tripod. They are also handy for shooting targets and trees. When you're shooting shorter tripods, you're stuck squatting down, looking through the viewfinder, but with a taller tripod, just get the eyepiece to about level with your forehead and then pull the viewfinder down to your eye. What about leg position? Well, most of the time, I recommend pointing one leg forward and standing between the other two. It's more comfortable than constantly straddling a leg. However, there are a couple exceptions. The first is if you're on a boardwalk and you're trying to keep the tripod as unobtrusive as possible. In that case, it's better to put two legs forward and push the rig forward a bit as you straddle the third leg. It's not as comfortable as the normal method, and pushing the rig forward like that is going to cost you a bit of stability, but it does take up less space on the boardwalk, and it helps to keep people from tripping over your rig. Another exception is if you're on a hill, especially with a heavy camera and lens attached. I often put two legs forward to help brace the rig a little bit better. Nothing worse than $20,000 worth of camera gear bouncing down the side of a hill. Next is a tip when you're shooting on level ground and you want your tripod to, of course, be level. The quickest way to get the tripod nice and level in that scenario is to make sure each leg is extended the exact same length. So extend the legs to the height you want before spreading them out. That way, when you spread them out to their outward position, everything will be perfectly level. As a bonus tip, it helps to spread each of your tripod legs to at least their first fully locked position for the best stability whenever possible. I see a lot of people with tripod legs that are only partially extended, and you know what? It does cost you some stability when you do that. Speaking of stability, you can often gain a bit of stability if you hang some weight off the center of your tripod. Usually it's just a camera bag, but sometimes people will use little stuffed sacks full of rocks and things like that. I don't use the technique much myself, but if you have a tripod that isn't as stable as you like, it's a viable option. It's a common technique on windy days where stiff wind is causing a bit of excess vibration, so give it a try next time you're facing that. Another stability field trick is for those with center columns, and that tip is to avoid using them as much as possible. A center column is a monopod perched on top of a tripod, and any extension of that center column is going to cause a loss in stability. The longer you extend it, the more stability you sacrifice. Always use the legs first for your height. Only use the center column when absolutely necessary. You want one more stability trick? Sure, why not? When setting up on a hill, I often see photographers with the tripod legs all the exact same length, so the tripod looks kind of like what you see here. Instead, level the tripod by either lengthening the downhill legs or shortening the uphill one. Get the base of the tripod level, not just level the camera by adjusting the head. Not only is it more stable, but if you're panning, you'll discover your horizons are easier to keep level as well. The final quick tripod tip for this video is to remind everyone to give their tripod a quick push down from the top each and every time you set it up. Not only does it help push the feet into the earth a little bit better, but more importantly, it helps you verify that you have all your legs locked in properly. I have witnessed just way too many tripods collapse over the years when people neglect to do this simple little test. Of course, always remember to check that the tripod head and the quick release on the camera are tight and properly mounted as well. So there you have it, all the tripod tips you ever wanted to know. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you picked up a couple of things. By the way, if you enjoy educational materials like this, make sure you check out my ebooks and videos at my site. I have a ton of stuff, thousands and thousands of pages of field-tested tips, tricks, and techniques. Make sure you stop by the site and check it out. I know you're going to find something you love. Also, make sure you stop by my site and sign up for my free email newsletter so you never miss one of these videos, one of my blog posts, one of my workshop opportunities, or any other cool stuff I do. And again, as always, please make sure to like, subscribe, and get notified. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it, and if you could share this video, that would be great. Have a great day.